everyone, welcome to our morning edition of Arirang News. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. President Lee Jae-myung is now in the United Arab Emirates, kicking off his 10-day trip to the Middle East and Africa. During his state visit, the president is set to hold a summit with the UAE leader on defense and AI cooperation, and also take part in a roundtable with business leaders. North Korea slammed a recently unveiled fact sheet between South Korea and the United States, warning of countermeasures. The regime especially criticized Washington's approval for Seoul to build nuclear-powered submarines, saying it will lead to a nuclear domino effect in the region. South Korea has formally proposed holding inter-Korean military talks to ease rising tensions along the border separating the two Koreas, following incursions by North Korean troops across the military demarcation line. Seoul says it hopes to clarify the official boundary and prevent repeated accidental clashes. We begin this morning with President Lee Jae-myung, who has now kicked off his four-nation trip to the Middle East and Africa. The president arrived in the UAE for a state visit escorted by fighter jets from the country. Our presidential office correspondent Yoon Jung-min files this report from Abu Dhabi.
President Lee Jae-myung has touched down in the United Arab Emirates for the first leg of his 10-day four-nation trip to the Middle East and Africa. He received a ceremonial welcome with two pairs of the UAE's fighter jets escorting Korea's Air Force One as it entered the country's airspace. President Lee started his three-day state visit to Abu Dhabi on Monday by visiting a war memorial to pay tribute to fallen service members. He also visited the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque to honor the UAE's founding president, accompanied by First Lady Kim Hae-kyung. On Tuesday, he will be hosted by his UAE counterpart, Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, for summit talks, which will be followed by the signing of MOUs. Cooperation on AI, defense industry, nuclear energy, and culture will top the summit agenda. The UAE is the only country in the Middle East to have established a special strategic partnership with Korea, and the region is deemed crucial for South Korea's exports of key items. The following day, he will hold a roundtable with business leaders from the two countries, including Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Jae-yong. Lee also plans to visit the AK unit, a Korean military contingent stationed in the UAE.
For President Lee, it's his first trip to the Middle East since taking office in June, with the focus on expanding Korea's diplomatic horizon. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, Abu Dhabi.
And wrapping up his first day in Abu Dhabi, President Lee Jae-myung also hosted a dinner with members of the local Korean community on Monday. In his opening remarks, the president described the United Arab Emirates as a base camp for South Korea's expansion into the Middle East and the wider Arab region. He pledged that South Korea and the UAE will open a new chapter of shared economic prosperity by combining their strengths in research, production, and entering developing markets. The president also vowed to build a nation that overseas Koreans can take greater pride in. So the president is now in the United Arab Emirates for his first trip to the Middle East since taking office in June. For more on this, we're joined today by Hassan Gun, visiting professor at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Professor Gun, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Always happy to be here.
So what do you think President Lee Jae-myung's trying to achieve throughout his visit to the Middle East?
I think this trip is very meaningful for President Lee Jae-myung because it's his first major outreach to the Middle East region since he became a president. I think there are a few things he's trying to accomplish there. First of all, he wants to broaden Korea's diplomatic relationship. And for a long time, as you know, Korea has focused its energy on having their diplomatic relationship only with China, U.S., and Northeast Asia. But the Middle East is becoming more and more important partner, and not only for energy, but for investment and technology. He's also very focused. I think President Lee Jae-myung is very focused on economic diplomacy. Industries like AI, renewable energy, defense are areas where Korean companies are doing very well globally. And so this trip is really about opening new doors for Korean companies and Korean business to broaden their partnership in the Middle East. By visiting UAE, Egypt, and Turkey, I think he's showing that Korea is willing and willing to have a bigger voice in the region, which is very important in global politics.
Right, absolutely. So, and his first stop is the United Arab Emirates, and he will be holding a summit with the country's leader and also attend a business roundtable. What's on the agenda there?
Yeah. A UAE visit is definitely the highlight of this tour. President Lee Jae-myung is meeting with President Mohammed bin Zayed, and they are going to discuss a wide range of issues. Defense cooperation is a big one, and strong interest in both sides to expand their joint projects and joint partnership, possibly signing new memorandums. But it's not just defense. They are also going to be talking about artificial intelligence, clean energy, and healthcare. There's going to be major business forums also where Korean big companies like Samsung and Hanwha will meet UAE's investors. UAE is actually the only Middle East country that has what is called a special partnership with Korea. So there is already a very strong foundation for cooperation and investment and more joint initiatives between the two countries.
Right, and speaking of defense cooperation, South Korea has already, exported a lot of weapons to the Middle Eastern countries already, including air defense systems like the Cheonggung-2 missile and K-9 howitzers. So what makes Korean defense systems and weapons so appealing to countries in this region?
Well, to put it in very simple terms, Korean defense systems give the Middle East countries exactly what they need. So they are very high quality, they are affordable, and they are really affordable compared to Western alternatives, and they can be delivered quickly. And this is very important, which is extremely important for countries that has immediate threats. Another big reason is flexibility. Korean systems work very well with Western equipment. So, but Korea doesn't give them the strings attached, like political strings attached, human rights demands, like some European countries do or the United States do. So, Middle Eastern countries feel they have more room for maneuver. Also, diversifying it. Middle Eastern countries want to diversify their places where they get their weapons. So Korea is also willing to transfer technology to or share production with these countries. As you know, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, they are trying to build their own defense. So and Korea is looked at is seen as a very reliable partner in this process.
I see. And the presidential office says South Korea also hopes to expand cultural cooperation with the UAE, Egypt, and Turkey. How is Korean culture sort of viewed in these Middle Eastern countries?
Korean culture is extremely well received in Middle Eastern countries all over the region, in all these three countries, and you can really feel it in when you visit the region. You can see K-drama, K-pop, K-food, skincare. In the UAE, especially, you can see Korean film festivals and Korean culture festivals, and there are many programs for studying Korean and in these countries. In Egypt, it's not so different. The vibe is really stronger there. Many Egyptian students are studying Korean in universities, and many young people, especially young people, they dream of traveling to Korea and study or live in Korea. And this is precisely where President Lee's visit to Cairo University is so meaningful. He isn't just speaking to officials as usually. He's speaking directly to a generation which is already affected by Korea and affectionate by Korean through culture. His speech is a very good chance to deepen people-to-people ties, where Korean culture is already vibrant and growing in Egypt. In Turkey, it's the same. It's not so different. The K-pop fan communities are very incredibly vibrant. K-drama have a loyal following, so overall, Korean culture is a highly positive image and, across the region, whether it's UAE or Egypt or Turkey or many other countries.
I see. That's really interesting how Korean culture is so popular in those Middle Eastern countries. All right, Professor Khan, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you. Four days after South Korea and the United States released their joint fact sheet, North Korea issued a commentary denouncing it. Saying that the fact sheet shows confrontational stance against the regime, it warned of countermeasures. Our correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
North Korea on Tuesday slammed the recently unveiled fact sheet and joint statement of the annual defense talks, the security consultative meeting between South Korea and the U.S. Pyongyang's official response comes 4 days after the documents were released last Friday, saying such documents formalized Seoul and Washington's confrontational stance against Pyongyang. The commentary published by the North Korean Central News Agency said the regime will take countermeasures to safeguard its own sovereignty. The commentary argued how the announcements from the summit helped the North clearly see the Trump administration's stance toward the regime. Particularly, the regime said U.S. reaffirming the goal of the North's complete denuclearization shows its confrontational intent to completely deny the regime's identity and existence. Regarding the part that said South Korea and the U.S. would cooperate to implement the 2018 North Korea-U.S. joint statement made in Singapore, Pyongyang said this showed the shameless side of Washington and said that the U.S. had scrapped and nullified past agreements. On the U.S. approval for South Korea to build nuclear-powered submarines, the regime criticized the move as a grave development that destabilizes not only the military and security landscape of the Korean peninsula, but the entire Asia-Pacific region. Calling South Korea's pursuit of nuclear submarines a stepping stone for its own nuclear armament, it warned that this will inevitably trigger a nuclear domino effect and spark arms races in the region. The fact that North Korea issued its reaction in the form of a KCNA commentary rather than a formal statement by a senior official suggests a calibrated response. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea is calling for high-level military talks with North Korea as tensions rise along the demilitarized zone after repeated border incursions, with Seoul seeking to clarify the official boundary and prevent accidental clashes. Our Muniran has the details.
South Korea has formally proposed holding inter-Korean military talks to ease rising tensions in the demilitarized zone after repeated incursions by North Korean troops across the military demarcation line. According to a statement from the South Korean Defense Ministry on Monday, North Korean personnel have been laying mines and building tactical roads near the MDL, sometimes crossing into South Korean territory. In response, the South Korean military has carried out warning broadcasts and warning shots to ensure the North withdraws, following established operational procedures. The ministry says these repeated incursions have heightened tensions in the DMZ, raising concerns that they could trigger an unintended military clash. Officials attribute the problem in part to the loss of many MDL markers installed after the armistice agreement in 1953. Around 1,300 markers were installed when the agreement was signed, but now only 200 remain clearly identifiable. Previous efforts to maintain these markers, including repairs supervised by the UN in 1973, were halted after North Korean gunfire, and current maps now rely on coordinates verified with the U.S. National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
Our military formally proposes holding inter-Korean military talks to prevent accidental clashes between the two sides and to ease military tensions, with the aim of discussing the establishment of a baseline for the MDL.
The presidential office also confirmed this statement, saying that many MDL markers have been lost and a proposal for talks has been made. Experts say this proposal underscores the urgent need to ease DMZ tensions and is a part of a broader effort to normalize military coordination and reduce miscalculation risks, as the first official dialogue offered by the Lee Jae-myung administration. The talks would be coordinated through the Joint Security Area in Panmunjom, though a specific schedule and venues are yet to be agreed. Since 2000, inter-Korean military talks have included 2 defense minister-level meetings, 10 general-level meetings and 40 working-level meetings. But no high-level meetings have been held for more than 7 years since the 10th general-level meeting in October 2018. Officials emphasize that the absence of recent high-level discussions has left the MDL more vulnerable to misinterpretation. South Korea is calling for a swift response, saying the talks would help reduce tensions across the peninsula and improve mutual understanding of the border. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In other news, new allegations have surfaced that Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange, may have been used to launder over $900 million in funds linked to North Korean hackers. According to the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists on Monday, transaction records show that roughly $900 million worth of stolen Ethereum flowed into 5 Binance accounts during the laundering process. Investigators say North Korea used a crypto exchange service known as ThorChain to convert the stolen Ethereum into Bitcoin. During the 10-day period when the laundering took place, transaction volumes for those 5 Binance accounts and ThorChain surged sharply, raising further suspicion. But it remains unclear whether the accounts in question are still controlled by North Korean operators. Now, shifting gears to China, Beijing has broadened its criticism of Tokyo, following Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's suggestion that military action by China against Taiwan could justify a response from Japan. The Chinese Foreign Ministry even expanded its criticism to include Japan's false claims over South Korea's Dokdo. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Tensions between China and Japan have intensified once again as Beijing broadened its criticism of Tokyo. In the days following Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's suggestion that military action by China against Taiwan could justify a response from Japan, China has been issuing strong rebukes.
Recently, the provocative remarks on Taiwan-related issues made by Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi have severely undermined the political foundation of China-Japan relations and made the public sentiment between the two countries deteriorate.
And now, in a rare move, Beijing has even expanded its criticism to include Japan's false territorial claims over Dokdo. At the regular briefing on Monday, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning was asked by state media to comment on the South Korean Foreign Ministry's protests last week when Seoul had launched a strong complaint against Tokyo's expansion of its territorial sovereignty expansion hall, which promotes Japan's false claim over Dokdo. The spokesperson responded by saying China has been following the reports closely, adding that Japan's recent hostile actions and rhetoric have triggered alarm, dissatisfaction, and protests from neighboring countries. She urged Japan to reflect seriously on its history of aggression, remain committed to a path of peace, and rebuild trust with Asian neighbors and the international community through concrete actions. Beijing has generally kept its distance from commenting on the Dokdo issue, but analysts interpret the criticism of Japan's hostile behavior as indirect support for South Korea. Other experts say this latest statement reflects China's effort to strengthen ties with another key neighbor in South Korea, while escalating its dispute with Japan. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Chi Ji-hyun, and this is The World Now. Starting in Poland, where the country's prime minister has said that a powerful blast on a railway line leading towards Ukraine was, quote, an unprecedented act of sabotage. The explosion on Sunday morning tore through a section of track, forcing a train to stop before reaching the damaged gap. No one was injured. Authorities say the attack is being investigated as terrorist sabotage carried out on behalf of a foreign intelligence service, as Poland has faced a growing wave of sabotage attempts in recent years. A second incident on the same route later forced another passenger train to stop after damage was found on overhead lines. Officials say the probability of foreign involvement is, quote, very high, calling this one of the most serious threats to Poland's infrastructure in recent history. The government has convened its National Security Committee and ordered inspections along the rest of the line toward the Ukrainian border. In Bangladesh, former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to death for crimes against humanity linked to last year's student-led protests that forced her from power. A domestic war crimes tribunal found that during the unrest, she authorized lethal force which killed about 1,400 people. She was tried in absentia after fleeing the country. The verdict on Monday is being called a pivotal moment for the nation as families of the victims sought severe punishment. UN investigators say the killings may mount to crimes against humanity, but expressed opposition to the use of death penalty. Ukraine has signed a deal to obtain up to 100 French-made Rafale fighter jets over the next decade, in a major step to strengthen its air defenses amid intensified Russian missile and drone attacks. The agreement is a political commitment, not a final purchase contract, and is expected to rely on European funding and potentially frozen Russian assets. France says the deal also includes advanced air defense systems, drones, and precision munitions to support Ukraine now and prepare for any future incursions once a peace deal is reached. Training for the advanced jets will take time, but both sides say that the long-term support is essential for rebuilding Ukraine's military. An Australian man has been sentenced to 9 days in jail after rushing at Ariana Grande at a premiere in Singapore. Prosecutors say Johnson Wen jumped a barrier at the premiere of Wicked for Good on November 13th and wrapped an arm around Ariana Grande before security intervened. Wen later bragged on Instagram, posting a video of the incident and thanking Grande, quote, for letting me jump on the yellow carpet. A judge said he had a pattern of disrupting high-profile events.
I hope you didn't regret not grabbing a warmer jacket this morning. Another surge of icy northern air moved in with temperatures dropping below freezing almost everywhere earlier in the day. We have a cold wave advisory in place across Gangwon-do and Chungcheong-pukto provinces, with the wind adding to the punch. And we could also see some wintry precipitation. Jeju's mountainous areas may see up to 5 centimeters of snowfall. Jeolla-pukto province might see some snow flurries. But don't worry, this round of cold snap will not stick around for too long. By Thursday, we're finally heading back toward more typical late autumn weather. But today is definitely a day for a heavy winter coat. Seoul gets up to 6 degrees, Daegu at 8 degrees Celsius under mostly sunny skies in most areas, except on Jeju Island. The island could see on and off wintry precipitation through Thursday, but the rest of the country will enjoy fairly sunny skies through the weekend with warmer temperatures.
That's all we have for this morning. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.